Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive.
Always a pleasure to be here.
So, you recently shared an article on LinkedIn, and I gotta say, it really caught my eye.
Oh, yeah. Which one was that?
It was the one by Ephraim about, those signs that it might be time to switch jobs.
Yeah, that's a topic that's close to a lot of people's hearts for sure.
Absolutely. So we figured let's unpack that article, really get into the nitty-gritty of it, and see if we can't help our listeners figure out if maybe, just maybe, a change is in order for them.
Yeah, totally. And remember, this isn't about like telling anyone to quit their job tomorrow. It's more about giving you the tools to really look inward and see if you're feeling any of these signs that Ephraim lays out.
Exactly. Self-reflection is key, right?
It always is.
So let's jump right into those signs. The first one UDB talks about is, well, good old lack of motivation. But we're talking more than just, the Monday morning blahs here.
Right. It's deeper than that.
He describes it as work feeling like a chore, just dragging yourself through the day, constantly watching the clock, not feeling that spark for projects that used to get you excited. Like you just feel kind of flatlined.
Yeah, and he actually gives this example of a marketing professional who used to love coming up with campaigns, brainstorming all those creative ideas, but now even just thinking about those brainstorming sessions is exhausting to them.
Wow. Yeah, I can see how that would be a problem.
And it really makes you think, like, why is that happening? Is it just that they don't enjoy marketing anymore? Or could it be something else? Like maybe their skills have grown and they're not being challenged enough in their current role?
It's a great point. Maybe it's not the work itself, but the way it's fitting into your overall growth and development.
Exactly.
So to everyone listening, maybe you're not in marketing, but think about it. Do you recognize that same kind of drag in your own work?
Mm-hmm.
Those tasks that used to give you energy, are you now just trying to get them over with? Or even like actively avoiding them?
I think that's a really important question for everyone to ask themselves, honestly. Because, when you think about it, what really drives us at work, what motivates us?
Yeah, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, often it boils down to a few key things. Feeling like you have some autonomy in your work, that you're good at what you do, that sense of mastery, and also feeling like your work has meaning, that it contributes to something bigger. But when those things start to disappear, motivation can really take a nosedive.
Absolutely.
And, it's not necessarily anyone's fault. It's not like you're a bad employee or the company is doing something wrong. It's just sometimes things shift and the alignment that was once there, it might not be there anymore.
Right, and that leads us perfectly into the second big sign that Anugbi brings up.
Yeah.
That's outgrowing your current role. And this kind of feels like, the natural progression of getting really good at what you do.
Yeah, like you've mastered it in a way.
You become efficient. Maybe you're even seen as an expert in your area. But then what happens?
You start to feel stagnant.
Yeah. You're not challenged anymore. You've hit a ceiling in terms of what you can learn or achieve in that position. And he also points out that even the people around you can play a role in this. Like
Right.
if you're not surrounded by people who inspire you, who push you to grow.
Yeah, that can really hold you back.
Absolutely. And he uses the example of a software developer who's becomes super proficient in their current tech stack,
Right.
but there's just no opportunity to learn new technologies or move into, say, a leadership position.
Right. And it's not just about being able to do the job well, it's about feeling like you have more to offer, but not having the space to do that in your current role.
Exactly. And that point about your peers, that's really interesting too. It's like if you feel like you're the only one who's even thinking about growth and development.
Yeah, you can feel pretty isolated.
Totally. So listeners, I want you to consider this. Are you feeling that stretch in your current role?
Mm-hmm.
Are there new challenges popping up that force you to learn and adapt? Are the people you work with, are they pushing you to think differently, to step up your game?
Yeah. Are they inspiring you?
Or are you just kind of coasting? Like you could do your job in your sleep
Yeah.
and not in a good way.
Because, when we zoom out and think about career development in the long term, this feeling of outgrowing a role, it can have real consequences down the line.
That's true.
Remember Peter Drucker, that management
Oh,
guru?
of course.
Well, he always talked about how important it is for knowledge workers to constantly be learning and taking on new challenges. If you're stuck in a role that's not giving you that, your skills can get outdated and that can impact your future, your employability, your whole career trajectory.
Like you're falling behind.
No way. Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to the third sign that Ephraim Yudbi highlights. And this one is maybe a bit more forward-looking. It's that feeling of not seeing a future with the company. Like your own aspirations and the company's vision, they just don't line up.
Right, they're going in different directions.
Exactly. And he gives this really great example of imagine a retail professional who's super passionate about digital transformation. You know, all the possibilities of e-commerce and online marketing, but they work for a company that's dragging its feet, super hesitant to embrace those things.
Oh, I can see where the conflict would be there.
Right. And it's interesting because even if you're enjoying your day-to-day work, if you look ahead and just don't see the company evolving in a way that supports your career goals, that's a big red flag.
Yeah, it's like you can see the writing on the wall.
It really is. And it brings to mind that classic interview question, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Yeah.
But Enrique makes this really smart point. You need to answer that question, not just in general, but specifically thinking about your current employer.
Ah, that's a good point.
Can you honestly picture yourself at this company in 5 years, growing and thriving? Does their roadmap, their strategy, does it align with your own hopes and dreams for your career?
And that requires some serious soul searching.
And it does.
Like, are your long-term goals even compatible with where your company is headed? Are they investing in areas that you believe are important for their future success and for your own growth within the company?
Right, because if those things aren't in sync, that's a major signal that you might need to start looking elsewhere.
It's not just about being happy today. It's about, what opportunities will be there for you tomorrow in this specific environment.
So there we have it. Those are the three big warning signs that iEphraimBooks lays out. That loss of motivation, the feeling that you've outgrown your role, and the lack of a shared vision for the future with your company. And as he says in his final thoughts, deciding to leave a job, that's a big deal. It's not something to be taken lightly.
For sure. It's a major life decision.
But he also makes this really important point. If you stay in a job that doesn't engage you, that doesn't challenge you, that doesn't align with your bigger goals, you might actually be holding yourself back.
Yeah, you can get stuck in that comfort zone.
Right. It's like sometimes the familiar becomes the enemy of growth.
And that's when you have to ask yourself, is staying here really serving me, or is it time to move on?
Exactly. And what I really appreciate about Ephraim approach is that these signs he's talking about, they're not just vague feelings. They're specific, actionable things that you can reflect on.
Yeah, it's a really practical framework.
It really is.
Yeah.
And for anyone who's been feeling that little voice in their head saying, maybe it's time for a change, this gives you something concrete to work with. And it's worth remembering that, Ephraim, he's not just some random guy giving advice.
Oh, no, he knows his stuff.
He does. He's got all this experience in audit and financial consulting. He's written books about career success. He's a public speaker on these topics. He's spent years analyzing what makes organizations and individuals thrive. So his insights carry a lot of weight.
Yeah, and I'm sure that experience gives him a unique perspective, being able to spot those patterns both in successful companies and in fulfilling careers. And his focus on strategic leadership within organizations, it really connects to this idea of individuals taking a strategic approach to their own careers.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Ephraim article, I want to leave you with a question.
Okay, shoot.
Thinking about those three signs we've discussed, that dip in motivation, the feeling of outgrowing your role, and the misalignment with the company's future, what's one aspect of your current professional life that you're now considering more deeply?
Yeah, because this conversation, it's just the beginning. Now it's time for you to take what we've talked about and really reflect on your own situation. Do any of these signs resonate with you? If so, don't ignore them. Give them some serious thought, because that's the first step in shaping a career path that truly fulfills you.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining me for this deep dive.
My pleasure. Until next time.
See you then.